welcome to this week's clinic with Chris and Karen. And this week it is children.
It's half of Chris, isn't it, really?
It's half of Chris.
Look at that.
And if you're watching on YouTube, you've got a bit of an iPad as well.
Yeah.
It's just, hang on, let me just adjust that. Sorry, I'm coming up close now. So,
Nostril cam.
Karen's nostril cam. Yeah, so children and teen fitness. And you're going to come in a bit closer. I'm going to bully you in.
You always do.
And this has been inspired by a few things. It's been inspired by the fact that apparently you're still out of shot.
I can't get in. I'm leaning. Passive aggressive again.
It's hardly passive aggressive.
Aggressive.
So a lot of children have been suffering from apparently COVID back. So children that have spent a long time hunched over screens, and because children's skeletons remodel and adapt they're a lot more malleable than grown-up skeletons. It's going to have an impact quicker than it might have on an adult. The other thing is there's been talk about children being weighed at school because of the increase in obesity in children. And just today, actually, there has been some news on girls and potentially teaching girls pelvic floor exercises in school between the ages of 12 and 18. And then another thing, so it's all go on the children's front at the moment.
We fit it all in.
No, but I tell you what, I've actually got planned this week. I've actually got a little plan to try and fit it in. Yes, it's going to be high level because there's lots to cover. And what I thought was, if any of this kind of whets your appetite, tell us, and we might turn it into a whole talk.
Expand.
Yeah, we can. We're going to just introduce it. The other thing we're getting questions from mums, particularly of teens who have left school trying to get into fitness and strength and conditioning and really want some advice on how to do it safely.
Babies, right?
I know. Babies want to get hench. Grr. Want to get hench for their for the world.
Second fiddle.
So, this week's been. I don't know about you. Everyone seems a bit hectic, with all the clubs returning to normal and here, there, and everywhere. End of term, we've got changes in regulations. Hopefully coming in the next 2 weeks, but it means we've actually been quite busy. We've had a lot of inquiries. We've got lots of new people starting. We're still dodging COVID in terms of the fact that rates are obviously increasing. So our strategy has...
The news?
Yeah.
Newsreader, isn't it? You love it. Crack
So,
on. Let's get back to it.
Fitness with Karen and Chris. Yeah, so our strategy has been... I was just talking about our COVID strategy.
Yeah. Cracking on.
Our strategy has been very much to just still limit, actually, the numbers of people that we're coming into contact with, because you might just come to one class with us, but we are seeing kind of between 60 and 80 people across the week. And at the moment, don't think it's safe to just do that all at once. So our priorities are our smaller classes, like our prenatal class, just because really one-to-one and meeting each other is really important. So that's where we are. That's where we've been. Chris, you were away at the weekend, weren't you?
Yeah.
He's not talked yet.
I know, because you know non-stop.
Okay. Chris was.
I was enjoying your newsreading. It's the. I was
golf widow this weekend. He was off.
I met some friends. We meet every year.
He's got friends.
Every year we meet somewhere around the Midlands, but this year it wasn't 2 years ago either. But anyway, and the whole point is that we figured out that if we didn't have a meeting point, a focal point in the year, we wouldn't meet up at all. And in fact, one of the boys of the weekend said, what's great about it is that if we didn't have it in the diary, we never see each other.
No,
so we do
true.
that. Some sad stories. One of my friends, he had melanoma, and it unfortunately went into his spine, and the disc or the vertebrae degenerated. He needed some pins and some rods, and he's had radiation therapy, I think it was. So it's nice to catch up with him. He was quite sad, but nice to catch up with him. We didn't know about it. This is how unfortunately men communicate. We don't, which is terrible. Another guy said, again, we're saying phrases that you'd never rarely hear women say. Oh, didn't I tell you I'm a dad? Yeah, okay, great. No, you didn't tell us you were dead. Yeah, 1-year-old. So again, it was nice to catch up. But we do that because we know that we wouldn't really meet unless we have that in the diary.
But you were feeling the after effects of your jab, weren't you, this weekend? You're feeling a bit unwell.
Yeah, but that's another story.
Okay, so again, talking about men not talking.
No, it's 5 minutes in, and people are
okay.
thinking, I want to start talking about my kids.
All right, okay. So, first up, first thing, actually, news just in today. So I've yet had a chance to fully digest it, but there's some news about recommendation from NICE, actually. So this is like from above. It's so important. It was on the BBC, not just on a little website. So the BBC reported on the fact that there's a recommendation now that children between the ages of 12 and 18, girls, are taught how to perform pelvic floor exercises. I have a vested interest in this because I spend a lot of time trying to teach pregnant women how to do pelvic floor exercises, because it's important that they can do it before. I mean, I spend a lot of time with postnatals as well, but my pregnant ladies really need a little bit of help, and a lot of are quite scared on how to do it, don't know how to do it. And obviously, if women knew how to really engage pelvic floor muscles from a young age, from teens, I wouldn't have to do that. However, whilst I think it's important, I also think it's a symptom of the fact that perhaps girls aren't moving. If the reasoning behind it is that if girls learn young, it will reduce incontinence and pelvic floor issues as they get older, because obviously that's quite a big burden on the health service. It's quite a big cost as women get older and as women live longer. So I understand the logic. However, I can't help but feel that if girls were encouraged to stay more active for longer, that it would be less of an issue. So sports like horse riding, jumping on trampolines or skipping, running, playing a wind instrument, gymnastics, playing a wind instrument, trumpet, singing, flutes. These are all really good for your pelvic floor. And what are the things that are less important in the curriculum at the moment?
Even though people are suggesting, so I know the arts, after all, Mr. Lloyd Webber has a little rant about the arts missing out. He said at the expense of sport. This isn't entirely true. It's at the expense of some sport and elite sport, but grassroots sport has been strangled for some time. So yes, sport has not been prioritised. I know people look at the football and think, oh, it's not fair because the football. Well, no, that's elite sport. Yeah. They have very deep pockets, therefore the government have a vested interest. Whereas grassroots sports, such as at school or even athletics, no, it has always been and still continues to be underfunded. So yes, we need to not put a sticking plaster over the issue, as Karen said. Pelvic floor exercises will do zero for women's health at school. It will do zero because can you remember things you did at school? No. So we learn things at school that transfer over into the rest of our lives anyway. So why would a pelvic floor education setup be any different?
I think it's important. There's a big difference between when your pelvic floor works and functions as a part of your life, and it is important. I do spend a bit of time teaching very specific pelvic floor exercises, so I can see the value in that. I can but I can also imagine how awkward that would be. I mean, it's awkward enough with a grown-up, eyeballing someone and telling them to squeeze a blueberry up inside their vagina. But imagine a room for, they've only just got their heads around the tampon lady coming into school, so I can't imagine. But anyway, any school teachers, secondary school teachers out there that want to talk it through, want an expert, I'm here and I'm happy and I'm very open about it. And I'm going to go away and read all the guidelines and I shall come and report back. So that was today's news. Now let's move on to COVID, lockdown, fitness. Are you concerned that your child has lost their fitness or has perhaps carrying extra body fat as a result of the last 15 months? So if that's something that you're concerned about, Chris, what might be signs? There's an obvious sign, I think, that your child is carrying extra body fat. I don't really think we need to spell that out.
No.
But what would be signs of a child's loss in fitness?
Well, loss in fitness would be, the main one would be out of breath, sustained breathlessness after the exercise is finished. So if you running or jogging to a bus, on your scooter, up and down the stairs, and then we are kind of programmed to avoid pain and discomfort. So you might find that your child then says, I don't want to scoot or I don't want to run. And that pushback may be down to the fact that they don't like the feeling of being breathless or breathlessness and being out of breath and feeling unfit. So that's the first thing, a bit of pushback. But with regards to the body fat, we've got to bear in mind that you are dealing with kids. And this is why weighing the kids is a ridiculous idea. You're dealing with kids at an age where they're going to go through height and weight changes anyway. And it's important not to confuse these natural changes, these absolute changes, with relative changes. So relative to where they are, kids are going to get taller, bigger, put on more body fat, particularly girls more than boys anyway. But we want to see whether that is larger than it would have been had they been more active. Hence why the activity and the lifestyle is more important than the actual weight as such, because all parents know if their kid is carrying too many pounds. And they don't need to be weighed to be told. I think there is a slight middle class slant on this where people say, I don't want my child weighed. It would just destroy their confidence. Well, okay, bear in mind that there are some parents who have no information, education about keeping themselves fit and healthy. They have no idea what the ideal weight for their child should be, ideal within a range. They may benefit from this as well. So even though you might feel offended for your child or on their behalf, just bear in mind there'll be some parents out there who might think, I had no idea. I actually had no idea. So we have to be very sensitive, understand other people's points of view, but at the same time, think that, well, what's the bigger picture to help the kids? But I don't think that weighing them will help in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to consider where that information is going to go. That's certainly, if it was my child, I'd be wondering where the information is going to go. And also, I think you said this, if they're being weighed at school, we've moved on to weighing now. If they're being weighed at school and the school is being asked to do something about that, or people are going to be brought in to help, then that's one thing. If they're being weighed at school and that problem is then going to be just offset onto parents who already know or don't already know, well, if the child is already carrying extra fat, it just seems to be a futile exercise. I don't really get it. However, I am of the mind that carrying excess body fat is factual. It's not an opinion, and that's why I think actually creating the data around it might be useful. I do think, and I know what you're saying about changes, particularly as children are growing or going through puberty, but I do think if your child gets to the point where it affects their gait, so they're struggling to walk because of fat around their thighs, or struggling to move, or that breathlessness, regardless actually of their body fat, that breathlessness, then they're key pointers. So you might see a child from the back and notice that they're kind of swinging their hips out as they walk. That's what I mean by gait, because of excess body fat around the tops of their thighs. That's going to affect their joint development. That's going to affect their physical development, because bones and joints remodel according to your movement patterns. So yeah, if you're already got a child that's got excess fat around the legs, that's giving them difficulties walking or running, they'll be less inclined to participate in sport, and that can also affect their joint development. So that would be a big red flag for me to do something about it. But the other thing that's been brought up in the news is COVID back. So I mean, we all know it as this kind of this rounded shape, and completely understandable. I mean, we've all been stuck at home. We've been forcing children onto laptops and Zoom calls and little kind of screens. We've all been doing it for the last year. So again, what signs might you notice in a child of COVID back?
Again, this is not to be confused with natural growth patterns which will happen with a child, because children will tend to have they'll experience maybe back pain, backaches as they start to grow anyway. So peak height for girls is much earlier than boys. So girls might have their peak height between the ages of 8 to 11. Boys will have theirs from the age of 12 to sort of 14, their peak height, so when they're growing at their fastest. And when you've just gone through this, the ligaments start to stretch and you'll start to feel maybe aches or strains in certain areas. Now, don't forget, between each of the I should be told you this. Between each of the vertebrae, you have ligaments as well. You have some that are attached between each one to one. You have some which attach one and miss one vertebrae to the second vertebrae, so you've a second one up. So you have a lot of connections between the spine. If they become stretched, you're going to start to get back pain until they settle down, and therefore you're going to need to maybe either wait or start to exercise slowly to build up the strength around those areas. So, I mean, COVID back is very similar to that growth spurt issue, and you'll start to find that your child or children may start to have a backache without movement. Backache towards the end of the day when they're lying down, feels stiff. You might feel them wanting to stretch out like a cat does every now and again. And that's the main thing. So it's important to know whether or not it's growth related and or just screen related. But I would say the biggest issue with any back or postural issues has been sped up by COVID.
Yeah.
It's mainly because at school, kids go from a lot of movement to very little movement and may sit down for long periods of time. That's the big issue. So we could put the blame at COVID and lockdown, but it's not just that. It's that we have a very rigid, strict, automaton robot style of teaching kids, which is you move around a reception, year 1, and then year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's it. So that is the central issue.
So what are the quick things that you can do? I mean, in my head, I'm thinking get that child on some monkey bars down at the playground.
Yeah, different movements, varied movements which don't involve sitting down for starters.
Yeah. Hanging.
I would say for most boys and girls, particularly girls, because they fall out of sport a lot sooner than boys, as Karen mentioned, training your upper body in a fun way. Monkey bars, gymnastics, rope, neck climbs. We have Vertigo, which is a place near us at Harlow Leisure Zone.
Yeah, rock climbing.
Rock climbing as well. Anything that encourages your upper body and to work and get stronger.
But for a quick win, down the playground, find some monkey bars. Get going on those. You know, set yourself a little challenge. Particularly, actually, for a child, if their back is aching to the point that they're finding they want to do that, the relief that they'll find from just hanging, they'll feel it straight away. It's something, the equivalent of I would do in Pilates with someone who's perhaps got what we call kyphosis, so those rounded shoulders. And what I'd want to do is just pick that person's ribs up off the floor. In fact, an exercise you could do with your child laying on the floor, if they're really struggling with the back, is to lie down on the floor and you get that sense of those ribs lifting up and then pressing those ribs into the mat. So it's like you're bringing your breastbone to the ceiling and then bringing those ribs down to the floor. So that would be a nice one for just getting that extension and opening up. And the great things about kids, of course, is that they're malleable. So as much as, this might have developed, it's not end of, it's not end game, but just do get going on it now if they're starting to struggle. Stretches, those arms against the wall, kind of hand against the wall, stretching out.
But the problem is if they will do that. Yeah. If they won't, then get them involved in some kind of activity.
Yeah,
with their friends.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yoga at school, will they do it? Probably not. Is it great to do? Yeah, but again, they won't do it. They'll do it for a little bit. But I'd suggest them get involved in some kind of sport. Or if you do a Pilates session online with Karen or your teacher or an instructor, get them to join in for a little bit. Just do half an hour, the start of the session or the end.
Even if they're not, if you don't think they're doing it brilliantly, don't worry.
Doesn't matter.
They're moving. Yeah, they're moving their body in different ways, and that's the most important thing.
Yep.
So that's COVID back. Also, an obvious one is just trying to bring back some limits on screen time again. Just try and make sure that they're not there, as well as being at school, that they're not then sat there at home. And I know that's hard. Peeling children away from tech, but worth considering from a long-term point of view. And then, so we've talked about weighing. So teen fitness now. We've got 2 little subjects left. We're doing well on my plan. We're doing well. We are rocking through this. I'm back in my producing radio programs days. Right, teen fitness. And I just, my little personal experience here. I was saying this to Chris. I actually got into strength training when I was about 16. Oh, hi, Hannah Jane. Yeah, I got into strength training when I was about 16. When I finished my GCSEs, me and my mate Andy, we went and got a membership down at the Waltham Abbey Sports Centre. And we used to walk or cycle, and we'd go and we'd use the equipment. And it was that little thing that we did. And I loved it. Oh, hello. Thank you for your lovely message in the week. That's I got into it. That was when I started, when I was that age, and I don't think I'd ever have done weights unless my mate Andy Chandra, Dr. Floss on the Instagram, is an amazing dentist.
Tag him.
Can I tag him? I'll tag him afterwards. Let's get a little shout out. Yeah, it was that little fun thing we did. We didn't think at that point that it was something that we were doing that was really good, going to be good for my body as I got older. Andy maybe a bit more because he was like, want to get hinch. hench wasn't a word back then though.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
No, it
Hench
wasn't.
isn't. It might even not be a word now. I might be a bit.
We've gone past it.
Yeah. I think we've got over henched. If you know what the new word is for hench, tell me.
Yeah.
So that's when I got into it. So we're conscious that there are some teens, young people, young adults that are keen to get into fitness at this stage. So shout out to us. Give us a shout out if that's something that you're experiencing, and maybe you're not quite sure what's healthy, what's not, how to direct them. But I'd say now is a great time if they've got some spare time, if they are, not working, if they've left school, perfect. And we're always actually looking for apprentice coaches, actually.
I say even we were kind of focusing on teens, but boys are getting more interest in body and shape and physique a lot earlier. So it could be even some of us friends, sort of 10, 11, 12, and just to give my experience about why I started training. I mean, I started training because my friends, we used to go to a local gym, and I'd say it was more because, without being too harsh, girls are mean. That's why we started training. Girls are mean.
What did girls say to you, Chris?
They have no interest in boys their age. They want to go for older boys. When you are very thin, like I was, you get the mickey taken out of you. And you feel like actually the gym you can move. And actually when I got over I never forget, it was a friend of mine who were on holiday together and he met this girl and he didn't want to continue meeting her, should we say. And he said, "Oh, I'm going out with Chris and the guys today." And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, you mean you're dumping me for your skinny mate?" Yeah. And
I feel sad for you.
And that's just one of many things. Girls can be mean, right? Don't believe the hype that they can't be at that age. So that's what got my interest. But then I kind of lost sight of all that nonsense once I got into it. I figured, it felt great to move and to train, and I really enjoyed the fact that.
You're saying girls are nonsense.
Pardon?
You're saying girls are nonsense.
No, the nonsense of what that girl and some girls were saying. Some boys as well, but it was mainly girls. But at that stage, I used to play a lot of sports, and I played badminton for my county, and I couldn't believe how weak my left side was. I never used it, and it was those things that got interested in being able to again balance out the body.
Like what, Roger Federer?
It was incredible. I used to carry it in my right hand, and my left hand to stop, and it was ridiculous. So that's what got my interest in balancing out the body. But I enjoyed it. I got into it. I wouldn't say I overdid it, but I just I enjoyed the fact that you could. The feeling of your body working was great, and it does become quite addictive, really.
Yeah.
So,
I loved the feeling. I loved the fact that I saw physical changes in my body, and I've always had, strong, wide shoulders. I've always enjoyed doing that. So yeah, don't be afraid, is what we're saying. If you're
sorry, I'm going to say sorry. My point being, the reason why I enjoyed it also is that when people start to notice that your body has changed shape. Because who remembers the Ted Baker tops I used to get that was so short and tight, they were ridiculous.
The brown one that you had until like
in general,
last year.
Ted Baker tops, the short ones used to get with the muscle tops, and we wore those because it showed off the tiniest bit of definition you may have had. And if someone said, "Oh wow, I can see maybe a tricep there," it was once you're noticed, your confidence changes.
Yeah.
And I feel this now, not only in people that we train, but when someone says, "Oh, I want to feel a bit better in how I look," that it's not superficial, it's not down to just aesthetics, it's you want to feel like you're noticed.
I think for me it was the first time when I hadn't really been sporty at school. I'd done dancing, but dancing is a very different physique, obviously not a huge amount of upper body. So it was the first time that I felt that sense of being able to go and then get better at something, and how I noticed the change in the way that my body looked. I've always been quite heavy legged, like quite strong legs. So I felt for me it kind of balanced down my upper body. So it was the first time really that I suppose I got into fitness as a thing that you could do. You can still be good at fitness and strength training when you're not actually that good at sports. So it's great for me. It was quite liberating actually to get that sense of competence. I really enjoyed it.
So hopefully those stories should really give you confidence to know that if your child or children are showing an interest, it's not all bad.
Go with it. Go with
it. Be sympathetic to maybe if it's a boy and he's looking at himself, he's quite slim and he's concerned that he is a bit thin. Don't play it down. Don't patronise him because he knows, and we can do support him and also it'll only be positive, because if he thinks about looking after himself and being healthy and active, he'll get other healthy habits.
Yeah.
If it's a girl who wants to go to the gym more, don't patronise them and don't play it down and say you're fine as you are. No, that they need something else from you.
And if you want to check out the environment, go with them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah?
Do not. Yeah, the concern about the environment is really important.
Yeah.
Actually. Eventually, at some point, we would love to have a gym where it's between the hours of maybe 3:30 to 5:30. It's just kids, no adults allowed.
But I would say though that when I went to gyms that weren't nice gyms, I soon realised it wasn't an environment I was enjoying. Oh, hi there, and I left. So we're talking about teenagers, older teenagers who want to get into fitness and strength.
Yeah.
Go with it, go with them,
Yeah.
embrace it,
Yeah.
help them, because it could be the start of a very lovely journey for them. Oh, and okay, so sorry,
and also,
you got more on that.
Yeah, this is really important. Go with it. Education is really important, because there are some dark places in the gym industry,
Yes.
gym environments.
Probably more so for boys. than girls,
and this is the thing for boys. Steroid abuse is rife. I was offered steroids. My friend took steroids. I actually had to. He asked me to inject them into him, and this was when he was older. So he was 19. He was 19. I was 20 at the time. So it's twofold. Yes, go with it, but you also need to ensure that the environment they're in. Hence why we said, if we had an ideal situation now between the hours of 3:30 and 5:30, it'd be kids only, fully instructed. So maybe three instructors, and you'd have a program. They'd be there to monitor and inspire and support, to make sure kids are doing it properly, and also get the seeds planted early, so they train from day one as they're supposed to train. And you're taking away some of and it'll only be 2 or 3 guys in there who they may look up to and think, I want to be like him, but don't realise that maybe he is taking steroids or performance enhancing drugs.
So if you have a teen that you think might be interested in a program, please ask them to get in touch with us, because it might be a question of just writing out a program.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to, you're not committed to months and months of training.
No.
But small group of teens that want a really decent instructor, send them our way, because we'd love. Do you know, all I can think of in my head, and this might be the weirdest analogy, is you're gonna think this is too much information now. The equivalent is, I can remember being about 14 or 15 and wanting to shave my legs, and shaving my legs, and my mum saying to my sister, "Why didn't you tell your sister to go and get her legs waxed? Because she'd have saved herself a whole lot of bother." Right. That's the equivalent. Of training.
That's
See
good
what
one.
I'm saying?
That's good.
Right. So so going to a dodgy place, reading stuff, not getting the right information. It's like shaving your legs and always having stubble.
Yeah.
Do the wax first. Get a decent trainer. Save yourself a lot of bother. It's my analogy of the week.
It's good. Yeah. So go with them definitely, and but don't worry. You can't tell them not to go. They're going to train, but just to try to cut through all the nonsense. And we have done all the work and the living for them, and so you can just come to us. Even if you want to chat to us about issues your kids are going through and concerns, we could even have a chat with you and maybe allay your fears or relay information to them.
He used to be skinny, so do you know what? Now he's not. So hi. Is that
well, no, I was always slim. I was always slim.
Okay.
And I was very, very fast because I was very light. But it's the things that some of those girls said. Yeah, they cut deep. They hurt.
I feel sad for you. Although I heard that I don't think you were my type when you were younger, were you? So I feel less sympathetic.
I've still got to do anything.
Yeah,
I've still got feelings.
Right.
Still,
Right. So the last thing that we're talking about, we're on to the last thing on my plan. We've done well with my plan today. I'm quite proud. Young athletes, do you have a child at home who's really sporty, or do you have a child at home that perhaps you notice maybe struggles with coordination, need a little help with coordination? They don't seem to be naturally able, they're in the middle of the pack, they don't seem to be able to run fast or kind of tripping over their feet, one or the other, or somewhere in the middle. First off, I think that actually someone recommended a book this week, Early Specialising. Chris, over to you.
This is going to rile a lot of parents, but I don't really care. So I'll tell you the truth. What we mean by early specialisation is getting kids involved in solo sports from as soon as they can, from day one. Now, many years ago, probably back in the 70s and 80s, what you tend to have is in elite sport, kids start sport very early. They just do like one sport, they get very good, and then all of a sudden you'd have a cohort of kids who are good at that particular sport. And what we've found is it was good to watch because you see these kids are really good, but once they retired, they had a lot of issues. We realised that we pushed kids too far down the funnel of doing the one thing which we thought would bring success out in the kids early, and actually it didn't. Because now we know that the best way to train, if you were thinking about ways to give your child a much more varied exposure to skill and sport, it's best to do many different things, and then they can specialise much later, and it has no bearing on their performance. It only helps to prolong, at elite level, prolong their career and increase other areas such as skill.
And there are two real reasons for this. One is that physically, when a child starts to go through puberty, if they're over-specialised too soon, there's a good chance that they're going to end up with stress fractures, injuries, particularly if they're not doing the strength and conditioning to accompany the training that they're doing.
Which we've seen already.
Yeah, which we've seen already.
And predicted.
Yeah, with so children that are really going hammer them, and they might love it. And this is the difficulty. If a child loves it, you want to throw them into that thing. They're loving it. They're doing all the sports. They're doing all this and all that. But actually, they're going to hit sort of 12, 13, maybe older, and you'll see it actually. You see it in athletes as well, British athletes. Oh, such and such is injured again, and you're just like, oh, really? We kind of saw that coming. So that's one thing. The second thing is, if a child is specialised really early, their expectations are set very high because they're specialising. Other children their age aren't specialising. They think, therefore, that they're really good at it and they're going to always be the best at something.
But they're not.
But then other children then start to get the skills, maybe get bigger, maybe get stronger, start to take them, or they just meet someone else who's better than them, and that knock is massive. That blow is massive, and it can be very difficult to overcome. And children may even, and I've seen it in adults that I've met, who are really good at sports and fitness, specific sports, and then they just lost interest because they weren't the best and they weren't in their heads that the thing that was their enjoyment they got out of it, and suddenly it was gone, so just dropped out completely.
There's a saying known as early to ripen, early to rot.
It's harsh.
You've got 10-year shelf life, so if you push your child, that's what some parents don't want to hear, you push your child down the route of they're going to play football because I had a failing football career, or maybe they're going to play cricket because I love cricket. If you force them into that, they'll have a 10-year window, and then once motivation wears off, they tend to either get caught up by other kids or they lose interest anyway. Now, what tends to happen with kids, and again, looking at sort of elite level development, as they progress and get better, watching kids sport is ridiculous. You should be watching kids having fun. The performance is irrelevant. I mean, parents talk about, the team finished second, he finished third, he finished fifth, and they're 12. You are not watching a fair competition because different kids have trained differently. Some kids have gone through what's known as their peak, peak height, so they've grown quicker. You have those genetic freaks who are 6'6" by the age of 12, and then they get caught up by the age of 15, 16. And really, we should only really be paying attention to the actual performance of kids' sport beyond the age of 16, when everyone's kind of caught up. The height and the weight differences have negated out or equaled out, and also so has the skill as well. But before that, watch it because you want to see them have fun. Don't put too much emphasis on they finished third or they finished sixth. I mean, it's great. I don't want to put a damper on things and say we shouldn't be excited about those things. But from a performance point of view, I never think, he finished first, finished third, finished fifth. We don't know. All we can do is support them.
Was it you saying
to
in
have
athletics,
fun.
You're not in a race, you're not racing against each other?
You never. No. In athletics, you are never racing against each other. You're racing against who you were last week, a week before. So it's really important that we do not push. This is where some parents don't like to hear this. You can't push your expectations onto your kids, because what you do, or what you say in a match or whatever it is, has no impact on the outcome. And the two worst parents are the football parents and the dance mums. Right, they're the two most annoying sets of parents you're going to find. Because the dance mums want their kids to dance, they want to be on the West End. Likelihood of that happening are pretty much zero. Same as football dads mainly. They want their kids to be the next big thing. The chances of that happening, again, less than 1%.
I think you're generalising. There are a whole other raft of mums and dads and parents and grandparents in between that just want their kids to be happy and find the enjoyment from dance. It's not all about being on stage. But
but the extremes.
Yeah, we're talking
the extremes and the worst ones are dance mums and football dads who scream at them. And that is from teachers who've spoken to me personally and said, dance mums are crazy.
So in short, if your child loves sport, brilliant. Nurture the enjoyment, get them to do lots of different things, get them to find the social side, but also basics: jump, run, throw.
Bit of bending as well.
Bit of bending, bit of gymnastics, bit of kind of all different types of movements, bit of team sports, bit of individual sports. Just get them to enjoy it. I would say don't rely on school sports because it's limited.
Terrible.
All right, okay. So
no, they are
other clubs.
But it's not their fault.
No, I know.
It's not.
I know.
It's not. It's
find the enjoyment.
It's not the school's fault. So again, I'm not going to mince words.
And particularly, I think it's really important if you're not an adult who was sporty, you might find. I found those environments quite tricky actually to go into with a child. To just like suck it up and just take your child down and let them embrace whether they're sporty, whether they're not sporty. Let them have a go at things. Don't feel that you're excluded because you weren't a sporty child or because your child isn't showing the gift of sports and they seem uncoordinated. Just get them down and get them to enjoy it.
That phrase, gifted, or my child's gifted.
Gifted.
So, what do you mean child's gifted?
Yeah. So variety. Segueing into.
I was thinking about those little things.
I know. I love the word segue because it's not spelled segue. I didn't know that until like last year. Right, seguing into. Chris is actually running an athletics camp over the summer.
Yes.
In July on Sundays.
Yeah.
Finer details, shall we say, to be confirmed. But we could run 2 different age groups.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, and that literally is going to be fun, run, jump, throw, basics, learn some skills,
try things that you never tried before.
Exactly. For children that love to be athletic and sporty, and for those that just want to have a go as well. And it's going to be at Mark Hall Athletics, so you get a chance to actually be on a proper athletics track as well.
That's the best feeling
which
ever.
Is just brilliant.
I think people look down on my style of coaching because they think I should be more serious. I know I'm serious when I talk here, but seriously with kids. Too many seriouses there. Too many seriouses. But jokes aside, kids just need to have fun. You cannot force a child to do well at sport. You only provide the environment. That's all. And actually, the environment changes. So once, particularly, boys and girls, but more boys, their peer group become their environment. You as a parent can do zero. Happens a bit sooner with girls.
Like me and Andy. And Andy Chandrapal.
So all you can do is make sure that the people that are around are like the people or person you want your child to turn into. That's all you can help. So invite the ones in or put them in that group, but you can't force them into that. So all I want to do is create a welcoming environment. It's why I always make it fun, so that people finish school and the kids finish school and they're dying to come down and have fun. Once they're in, then we can train. But I don't like the notion that you come into a boot camp to train really hard to be the next big thing. You may be, but you're more likely to come back to my session because it's fun. You are going to go to the guy down the corner.
Just like grown-ups, you want to go back and chat with your mates at your Pilates class. You don't necessarily want to go and do an hour of Pilates. Well, obviously, it's different. My ladies do. Yeah. Before we go, we do need to provide a little quick win of the day. Win of the day, which is something Chris taught me during the week, was the fact that apparently my dad's hopefully not on this Instagram account. My dad doesn't know the rule of eating bananas. I didn't know there was a rule of eating bananas.
Okay, here's one I made.
Are you demonstrating this or am I?
There were 2 ways to eat a banana. Okay, I will not eat it though. Way 1. That's the way to eat a banana.
You're slightly outshot on the live. Okay.
This is the way to eat a banana. Yeah. This is the way to not eat a banana. Let me show you again. This is the first way. Perfectly acceptable. The second way, don't do it. You do not take your mouth to the banana banana comes to your mouth. And on that bombshell,
We'll see you, as ever, next week. Pop your comments in below. Just send us a direct message. I do respond to them. Even if I don't straight away because they've gone into the wrong box and I haven't seen, I will respond to them. But yeah, thank you.
And how do you eat your banana as well? Let us know.
Let us know how you eat your banana. We want to know.
You didn't know that either?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh
I didn't know that.
Every day's a school, eh?
Bye.